Welcome to the Stab Comedy Theater. It's time for the book report. Please welcome, already on stage, your hosts Dana and Jesse.
Dana, how the hell are you?
I am doing pretty darn well. How are you, Jesse?
I'm good. I missed you last month.
I missed you too, but Nicole was also a great.
Oh, Nicole, yeah.
Yes.
And who was the guest last month?
We had Carrie and Mike Kutnick.
Oh, that's right. I forgot him last month.
I was like, I knew them both, so why
yeah.
can't I remember both their names?
And I heard the word on the street was it was a great show.
Yes, and it was also very French.
Oh, really?
Yes. Both of the books, one of them was in French. Carrie's book was a French comic book, and then Mike did the Count of Monte Cristo, which is by a French author, so it was very French.
Nice. And how were the scenes fun?
I thought so. I had a good time.
Were the scenes in French?
No.
Did you try?
No, I don't speak I can un, deux, trois, done.
Yeah.
Oui.
Yeah. I don't know. I can pronounce a lot of landmarks in France properly, but that's only because like I've been watching the Tour de France bicycle race like my whole life. So like I could say like Champs-Élysées properly and like Mont Ventoux and like all these other places. Like sometimes people will be like, "How do you? Well, you're saying it right." And I'm like, "It's just because I watch cycling every summer." That's awesome. What's new? Are you reading anything right now?
No, I keep telling myself, Dana, you need to read a book before the next show so you have something to talk about. But I have not been reading anything lately. But I have a whole stack of books to read.
Yeah, you have tons of books. I have tons of books too, and I'm trying to. I'm not. I almost said book on cassette. Audio books though are still kind of my jam, but like right now. But I do have right now. I'm reading. It's a biography of Don Rickles. Do you know who he is?
He's an old-timey comedian, right?
Yeah, but you guys know who Don Rickles is? And he was famous for like he would just insult like anybody in the audience, and they were like really like he would like racially like it was bad.
No.
He would say like all the words that you can't say anymore. But there's this great story in there about Don Rickles was going to go on a date. He was in Vegas and he was going to go on a date and he was going to take his girlfriend. Well, he was going to take the girl on the date to see Frank Sinatra. And Don Rickles was kind of like an honorary member of the Brat Pack, right? So he called Frank Sinatra and he's like, "Frank, I'm going to take this girl to your show tonight and I really want to impress her. So would you like do me a favor of like, you know, before your show, like come by my table and like say hi to me so she could think like I'm this like big shot like knows Frank Sinatra." And he's like, and Frank was like, "Of course, baby, I'll do that for you, you know." And he said that he got to dinner and they were hanging out and he saw Frank like out of the corner of his eyes that Frank was coming over to him. He said that Frank went over to his table and he's like, "Hey, Don," and Don turned and looked at Don. Don turned to Frank's eyes like, "Frank, I'm on a date right now. Talk to me later." And it's just like story after story like that of like just this wonderful magical time that we can never have back. But yeah, I think it's really it's kind of fun to go. Like I read that book. I read a couple pages every night before I go to bed, and then yeah, it's pretty good. I'm reading that one right now. But that's why we're here, huh? To talk about books.
Yeah, I've read a few autobiographies by some comedians.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
What'd you read?
I think my favorite one is Paddle Your Own Canoe by Nick Offerman.
Okay.
It is heartwarming and delightful and like raunchy all at the same time. Like I've never heard like drug and sex stories told from like the sweetest, most kindest, like wholesome way. Right?
Yeah.
And it's called Paddle Your Own Canoe because he says that everyone should build their own canoe, but if you can't commit to building a canoe, you should at least build your own canoe paddle. And like woodworking. Yes.
Yeah. What other ones? Do you remember what other ones?
Yeah, I've read both Tina Fey and Amy Poehler's books.
Is it Bossy Pants or Sassy Pants?
Yeah, Bossy Pants.
Bossy Pants, okay.
And it's funny because, like, watching them on TV, it was always like, oh, Tina Fey always seemed like the responsible adult one, and Amy Poehler seemed like the silly, weird one. And that's like opposite. Like, reading their books, I was like, oh, Tina Fey's a little odd, and I like that. And Amy Poehler's got a little bit more of that, like, adult
Really?
personality. I was like, oh, okay.
I think I like Tina Fey even more now. Yeah.
Right.
Now, were they? I know that they were Saturday Night Live alums, but did they know each other like before Saturday Night Live? Like, did they study improv together, or did Saturday Night Live bring them together?
I think I don't remember very well. That was a while ago that I read these. We actually got to read them. We had like a book club at work, so I read one of them as part of our.
So everybody was reading the book?
Yeah.
That's kind of dope. We need to bring back book. Oh, we wouldn't do it. Never mind. That's a great idea, but I wouldn't do it. I would like leave the group chat.
I'd show up, be like, here's 3 bottles of wine. I didn't read it.
There's some cheese.
Right?
Where's the cheese? Yeah.
I took 3 hours and baked a cake. Didn't read a book.
Hey, listen, if you ever happen to be lucky enough to be somewhere where Dana has brought baked goods, right? Yeah. Yes. Well, it wasn't today.
Sorry. I remember this.
I think I've worn out my whole asking her to bring baked stuff, because she did, like, early in the relationship, she was bringing baked goods to everything. Now she just shows up, doesn't even read a book.
No.
Yeah. Now.
Sorry.
Our 5th year, and
I
it's
should
just
try
like,
harder.
Yeah. She's like, just like me for me, and I'm like,
Right.
well, that's part of you. That was part of the base package. Now that's an add-on. Oh man. Should we bring up our guest? Our first guest? We have 2 guests tonight. Let's bring up our first guest. You want to bring it up?
Yep, our first guest is Amy. Welcome.
Woo! Amy, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me here to celebrate literacy and tell you about a book I recently read.
Yeah, we love books. Do you love books?
I do. I read them. I read them as an adult on purpose, but I probably read less than 12 a year.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Do you hold on to? Okay, so you're now the e-reader, right?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Because it's so convenient, and I get it. And I'm not e-reader shaming you at all. Okay, I'm not. But when did you make the switch? When you're like, wait, I could have 10,000 books on this.
it's more the time it takes to get the book. So if I go and look at the library and they're like, oh, we can, get it and then put it on hold for you and you can come pick it up, far out. I'm like, oh, or they're like, you can get the ebook. I'm like, I'll just get the ebook because it's here right now. Because the whole instant gratification thing.
I know. Yeah. Do you have books that you've read more than once?
Yeah.
What's an example of one of those?
Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test by Tom Wolfe.
Okay.
Into the Wild by Krakauer. We all know, right? We all know the pronunciation, I'm sure.
Wait, is Into the Wild the guy lived on a bus?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I read that one, and I started the first one. I never finished it.
It's a trip.
Yeah. Into the Wild is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And you read that one more than once? Mm-hmm. Do you have do you still have some physical books?
I do still have some physical books. So like my guilty pleasure one that I reread is Tuck Everlasting. Well, because like you read it at an impactful time in your life, right? You're in like junior high or whatever, and you read this book and you're like, feelings. So I still have that one to reread that one. Mm-hmm. And then I look at how much I've grown since first reading that.
Okay.
This is childish.
With some of the books that like you've read like your whole life, do you have because this has happened to me with like The Grapes of Wrath. Like, did you read the book first when you were like a teen and you're like, this character is who I identify with, and then like rereading it like 5, 10, 15 years later, you're like, no, that character's a dumbass.
Totally.
This is the character, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A Catcher in the Rye. You read that when you're like 16, and you're like, oh my gosh, questions, freedom. And then you read it when you're like 26, and you're like, oh wow, okay, this guy could have been way cooler.
Because I read The Catcher in the Rye the first time as like a 35-year-old. Like I think it was my early 30s, and I was like, why do people like this book? I was like, what is so great about this? It's just some whiny rich white guy that like
your timing was off.
That is dumb. Like I was like, I don't get it.
Totally. I also have reread The Hobbit a few times, and that keeps,
Nice.
Is it better every time, or
No,
is
it's the
no?
same.
It's the same. It's the
Just
same.
not worse, which is nice.
Are you still a sucker for a good bookstore?
I am. I can't help but peruse. And like, I let the book find me, you know. I
Yes.
don't go to the like staff selected or bestsellers. I'm just like, where is it? Where is it? Yeah, and then I get one. Sometimes it's a cooking book. Sometimes it's a, you know, DIY book. Sometimes it was just on sale. I don't know.
Oh man, I am a sucker for the Barnes and Noble bargain books. Oh
Totally.
man, I'm all up in that section,
Yeah.
and I love biographies and autobiographies. What was the one time like you just bought a book just like on a whim? The cover was great, or you liked the author?
Yeah, I think I was at Powell in Portland, and people were looking at books on purpose, and I just like knelt down and I like read a couple backs, and I just picked one, and it was called, I believe, Parasites Like Us, and it was like about this like how popcorn brought on the apocalypse, and it was just a wild, well-written book that was a really great random find.
Wow.
So what happens was they find this like ancient ceramic.
Yeah, tell us.
Well, I have to now,
I
right?
was
They
like,
find this
popcorn.
ancient like pottery, and the pottery has corn kernels in it. And so some college students are like, well, you know, we already tested everything else. Let's see if the corn kernels still pop. So they pop out the corn kernels. They eat them. A bunch of other people eat them. That spreads some sort of disease that goes from people to swine to chickens to cows. So everything is getting slaughtered, thinking they can stop this virus, and they totally can't. And then they kind of just turn into savages again. You know, hunting and being a small clan because everybody died. Anyways, I kind of ruined it, but there's nuances that I missed.
All right. Before we get to your book, how are all your animals?
All my animals are fantastic.
Did
So
you
I'm
see how she just lit up?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes, I saw my nephew over the weekend, so I came home today and saw all my pets, and it was very nice.
Okay, I don't think our studio audience knows about
Right.
all your animals. You want to just give a brief synopsis of what you got going on?
Sure. So
at
I have
Animal Farm?
I have 11 pets, and what some consider a micro farm because I have fruit trees and vegetable beds and whatever. But I have 11 pets, 5 chickens, 4 guinea pigs, and 2 cats. Yeah, chickens are a lot of fun. They're all a lot of fun. They're all alive too, which is always nice when you come home.
I'm this close to getting chickens.
Do it.
I'm this close.
Set them and forget them.
Yeah, right?
Gravity feed or gravity water. Make sure raccoons can't get them. They're good.
Okay. I don't know if I'm sure there's raccoons in my neighborhood. Yeah.
Probably.
Well, my neighborhood has tweakers. Like,
Do they eat the raccoons? Like,
don't
how does that
know.
make them not be raccoons?
I don't know. I was about to launch into a bit. I won't do that. Tell us about your book.
My book is called The Housemaid, and
The Housemaid or Maid?
Maid.
Maid. Okay, the housemaid.
Yes. And the cover is an eyeball looking through a keyhole. So this was chosen by a book group that I'm a part of. And when I saw the cover, I like rolled my eyes and I was like, this is going to be stupid. Just because it seemed really cliche, right? Like looking through people or a keyhole. So this nanny, no, she's not a nanny. She is, we don't know this yet, but she turns out to be freshly paroled and she needs a job. So she applies for this like too good to be true maid position. So she goes to the interview. The house is absolutely spotless. She gets the position. It is called a few days later and told that. She goes back to the house to start the next day and the house is in ruin. And she's like, what did I sign up for? So it turns out that like it's a mom and a dad, Nina and Andrew, and they have a daughter whose name doesn't really matter. And this maid person is named Millie. So Nina turns out to be like crazy. Nina will pick up a gallon of milk, pour it on the ground, and say, why did you spill the milk? Like, she is insane. The daughter is also insane. So Millie can't tell if like Nina is lying or the daughter is lying. And meanwhile, Andrew, the husband, seems totally normal, super hot, really great job. They're super rich. He's really nice to his wife. He's really great with his daughter. And she's like, what is going on here? So then time goes on and everything's great and everyone's getting along. And there's this one time when Andrew catches Millie in her pajamas because she left her room at night. And then she gets talked to by the mom the next day and is like, don't be prancing around in your pajamas in front of my husband. Right? Getting a little tense. Okay.
Yeah.
So then Nina sets up Andrew and Millie to like essentially go on a date to a musical in the city. So of course they go to the musical in the city, and of course there's a hotel room, and of course they sleep together.
Of course.
Because what? I mean, it's the whole maid thing. I don't know what the deal was, but I was like, as I'm reading this, I'm like, Millie, this is a trap, right? Yeah. This gotta be a trap. So then, of course, we figure out later, Nina, I don't know, has trackers on both their phones. So of course she knows, but here's the thing, did she want that to happen? I'm not really sure. So Millie, at this house, as she's a maid, she lives there. So she lives in this tiny little room upstairs, and it doesn't have any, or I think it has one little window, and then she goes back up to her room the next day, and it doesn't have a window. Like, they covered it that night, and she's like, this is so weird. And then it turns out we get a flashback in the middle of the book to Nina and Andrew first meeting, and like they were so perfect, and he was so charming. But wait, if she let her roots grow out, or didn't get her nails done in time, or had a stain on her dress, he would lock her in that room for days.
Wow.
Freaking crazy. And then he'd be like, pull out 100 hairs from your head with the follicle, and then you can leave the room. And like, she wouldn't have any food or water or anything. So it was like total torture, right? But he has like dirt on her that she like maybe tried to drown their daughter once, kind of. No, I mean, it's more like the baby was in the bathtub and then she left. It's not like it was like a hold it till the bubble stop, right? Like, it wasn't. It was more like, I'll be right back. Oh no, it slipped, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, so he's like, no one's gonna want you. You're a child abuser. Like, you get punished because you're not good enough all the time. So Nina sets them up to cheat on her, and then she has means now to leave Andrew and leaves Millie with Andrew. And guess what happens? He does the same shit to her, locking her in a room, making her hurt herself in different ways to appease him. Insanity, right? Insanity. However, there's one little, how does she do it? Okay. Do I ruin the whole book? Is that what I do?
Sure.
You can do whatever you want.
I mean,
earmuffs if you plan on reading the book.
Right. I always forget, and I don't care. Like,
Right.
I
That's
look up
true.
spoilers.
I can be
That's
told
true.
the whole movie and still see the movie. Like, it's all good.
Yeah.
So Millie somehow manages to trick Andrew and lock him in the room, and she just leaves him in there for a week. And then she calls 911, and it's like, I think the homeowner's in a room upstairs. And he's dead, and she hightailed it out of there. So, this is magic. So she gets a call from a random number that's like, you have to call me back. She calls this number, this is the epilogue. She calls the number back, and it's like, hi, my name's so-and-so, I'm Nina's friend. I'm a fan of your work. And then Millie goes and, like, I'm guessing, goes and works for that lady and also kills her husband. But that's probably in the second book. So isn't that crazy?
That's dope.
So this whole book was just like twist, twist, twist. I read it in like 3 sessions because it was just like so addictive. Because it's like, you think they're actually falling in love, and then you realize he's a jerk, and then you realize Nina was like, abused this whole time, and the girl is just crazy because her parents are crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I've got 2 questions.
Sure.
I might have more, but like right off the bat, does the daughter carry anything because mom almost killed her, or like what's the daughter's stance on the whole? Like does the daughter like get away with everything? 'Cause, like, you almost killed me once, mom. According to dad.
She probably should. But what we see at least happen to the girl is people talk about her at school and like, make fun of her, like, your mom tried to kill you, haha, which this is
Kids will do that.
Yeah.
Well, it's like if the kids already know, somebody else already knows, so she should probably just leave.
Yeah. So some of the other moms work, because she still had to pick up the girl from school and stuff along with clean the house. So some of the other moms were like, oh, you work for Nina, like, you should probably get out of there, like, she's crazy. And she's like, what? She's not crazy. She was crazy, but with a good reason.
Right. She was driven.
She was very
that
driven.
way.
I know.
Did they get
Genius.
the girl out of the house, like when the husband was locked in the little room? Or is she just like there playing with the toy, like, haha, I'm free now?
I think. So there's actually this juicy part in it of, so the little girl kind of always had to be clean. Nina always made sure she was clean, and it was this whole thing. And then there's a part towards the end of the book where Andrew's mom is like a total witch, like a totally terrible person who abused him as a kid, and that's why he did it. And this grandma was also doing that to the daughter. So I think she died. I mean, she didn't get locked in a room or anything. I think she just died.
The grandma?
But yes.
Okay.
So the bad people died and the good people left, and everything was great again. I think Nina and the daughter were like fine. I think they hung out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was gonna be my second question. It was like, where was his meanness rooted? Like,
Right. Yeah. His no one was ever good enough for his mom.
And where did this take place? Is this in America? Is this like
I think
this
it
sounds
was-
like Upper New York?
Yeah, I think you're right. Upstate New York.
Dude,
Yeah.
it sounds like upstate New York. It really does.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, awesome. Dana, do you have some questions for?
I feel like you gotta cut to like 6 months later, and the mom and the daughter like drinking milk. They're like, "Oh, this is great! Like I shouldn't have been pouring it on the floor." Seriously.
So did she clean the house spotless every day, and then at night they?
Nina was just trying to make sure that she looked crazy, so that this whole scheme could like happen, so that she could like push Andrew away from her and make Millie think she's crazy, and then have them hook up, and then her have reason to leave and take the daughter and all this stuff. So
Do you think they had tried this with other housekeepers before?
I think so, and that's why I think the other moms were warning her, being like, "You should really get out of here. Like she's crazy." I think she did try it with other housemaids, but so here's the thing: Nina also knew that Millie was paroled. So Millie actually went to jail because she killed someone as a teenager. But I guess they like wouldn't reveal her name because she was a minor, and after she did her 10 years, it was erased. But apparently Nina knew this because they're like rich and can find stuff out or whatever. So they knew that Nina knew Millie had no other choice but to like be a nanny and work there and live with them. So it was like all part of the plan.
How old is this book?
I think like maybe 5 years. It's not super old.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be more recent. I wasn't paying attention.
If this book were to get made into a movie, have you thought about that? If this book were to get made into a movie, who would you cast as one of the characters, like the husband or the wife or the maid? And it could be like a modern actor, or it could be like young Leo, or like what do you think? Young Leo could be in anything. All right.
Well, I don't really know people's names, but if we saw Knives Out, the first one, the murderer, like just those big doughy eyes, I think that'd be a great Millie, because like you look innocent, but like you're not, right? And maybe I'm a little biased because she was also a murderer in that movie. But anyways, and then
You mean Anna de Armas?
sure. See, I don't.
Okay.
There's too many people to know all the names. I don't know who's like a handsome guy who could also be conniving, like Captain America.
Chris Evans. If you're
Chris
watching
Evans.
Chris Evans, marry him. We
Chris
can date first.
Evans.
It's fine.
I would want a little bit older than Chris Evans for that part. Yeah, because this dude
I
was
thought you meant for like
Don't take it
no,
personal.
marrying.
Oh golly.
I was like, no, I don't
No,
want
you
to marry
can-
someone much older than that. No, thank you. But you meant for the show.
Dana
Okay.
gets whatever Dana wants, of course. Yes, for the movie that is The Housemaid. Yeah, someone a little bit older.
Maybe like a Jude Law, maybe.
Sure. Yes, I actually like that a whole bunch. And if you could keep the accent too, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, I don't want Jude Law unless he's got an accent.
Yeah, that's the only movie scene I did that didn't get cut was with Jude Law. I was in Contagion in 2011 about a global pandemic.
You were?
No, never. Yeah.
What?
I just walked past it, and that's all I did.
Now I have to watch that.
No, but I avoided Contagion because like the pandemic, and like everybody's like, don't watch Contagion right now.
Oh, I'd already seen it, so I was like, yeah, I'm not rewatching that. It's
Yeah,
scary.
I watched myself in Contagion while fleeing Europe due to the contagion in March of 2020. I had to like flee Europe, and I watched myself, and I was like, "This is so cool! I'm doing the thing."
Were you on the airplane?
Yeah, I was on the
You should have
airplane.
been like, look, it's me. Like, and pointed out to like
I
everyone.
everyone was sleeping, but I was kind of trying to. I was like at least looking around to see if anyone could see my screen. And that's me. And then it's just the back of me, so really, I could just be lying. But I still have the coat that I wore in that film. So.
Okay, in case the
No, I love
the
that.
Oscars Museum calls one day and they like want your coat.
It's a great coat. It's still in working order. I don't know why I would get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was the last time you wore it?
I don't know, a week ago when it was cold,
When it was
right? Like it's like a really cute tweed pea coat thing. I don't know.
Okay.
It's fine.
All right. Dana, any more questions? Or are you ready?
Nope, that's all the questions that I have.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for letting me share about one of my favorite books with you.
That was an awesome. I kind of want to read the second book when it comes out. Like that's pretty awesome. Like I heard you. Like, well, what the other person like.
Yeah.
That
I
needs
like
to be
your
a
work.
series. Like, she becomes like,
Just murder your husband.
right. But
Oh,
bad
yeah.
ones. Like,
Bad ones, of
Right.
course. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the podcasts I listen to, they always ask that. They're like, "Do we want this to be a blockbuster movie or like a 10-episode Netflix series? How do you see this book? Do you see it as a blockbuster
or
movie?
HBO because they can get away. They have more money and can get away with more
Let's-
swear
can
words
it-
and sex.
Can we do a 4-part miniseries? Do
Yeah.
we still do those, or
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that a thing anymore?
That's what we want.
Yeah, no, I won't do that one.
And do you want the miniseries streamed all at once, or do you want to have to wait a
No
couple
one
of
wants
weeks?
to wait,
No,
Jesse.
waiting.
No one wants to wait ever.
I guess just us old folk want to wait.
I hate it when they like make you wait, because on the one hand, I want to watch it all at once, but on the other hand, if I know it's there, I want to go watch it. So like, it makes me mad because like I can't wait. Like I'd rather just have it all at once.
I look for like right now, like at this moment, like I so look forward to Wednesday mornings because I wake up, make coffee, and watch the new episode of The Mandalorian, and it's just like I love Wednesday mornings right now. But if it was all out at once, I would binge it like I do, like I did Cobra Kai. Like I will binge Cobra Kai every new season, and what
But I
else?
like binging it because then you like, because either I'll like be impatient and want to watch the next one, or I'll forget that I'm like in the middle of it, and then I'll be like, well, fuck, I watched half and I forgot, and have to come back and watch the other half. Unless it's The Bachelor, I watch that every Tuesday morning when it's on Hulu, and then I have to message my friend. Oh my God, did you see what happened?
Love it, love it. All right, are we ready?
Okay, we're ready.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. I'm excited.
Oh, it's been great talking to you on the phone for your preliminary interviews as my personal assistant. I just, wanted to go over the job role with you, make sure you're still comfortable with it.
Yeah, like of course.
Okay, your duties would include, getting coffee, running some errands,
Yeah.
dating my husband, the normal things.
I mean, what?
Yeah, like, I'll be busy doing some shoots or like.
So what's like dating or whatever? Like, what do you mean? Like, does he...
I'm very busy, and I believe you, Jeff. It's lovely. I get busy, and my work schedule is really long, and my husband's a little needy. So just the normal things like a hand job every once in a while.
Cool. So do I like bill those differently, or do I like bill those the same? Because I mean, it did say 10% of my job duties were your husband. And I was like, what?
Yeah, so I will cut you a check once a month, and it will cover everything. So like sometimes I might have you run over to a store to pick up some outfits for some models or some shooting, and sometimes I might need you to go pick up lunch because our staff gets really busy. Sometimes we forget to eat. Sometimes I might need you to dress up in like a Pikachu outfit and just bend over and let my husband smack you a few times.
For money.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that sounds. I mean, it's not what I expected. Like, I really thought there'd be like more office-based work. Am I gonna be Pikachu at the office? Or...
Oh no, that's more at my home space. If you're looking for something more office job, like I definitely need help typing up some invoices and doing a little webcam work.
Oh my God, can I type up my invoice?
Sure. I mean, if you want to do it topless, that would be really helpful. You can multitask. Put some tassels on your nipples and like spin them around while you type up.
Okay, so you really said you liked my experience, which was exclusively pole dancing. So
Yes.
This is making like a lot more sense or whatever. So it does sound like there would be opportunity for career growth.
Oh yeah.
Because eventually I'll get to be you, right? Like.
I have positions underneath me and my husband opening up all the time. So if you want to maybe go from like my personal assistant to maybe like a manager of your own assistants, people working on a group, running the orgies sometimes, you'll be supplying the toys instead of having to like use them on my husband,
That's a lot more growth than I expected.
Oh yeah, and speaking of growth, my husband is very well endowed, so like you won't be dissatisfied in that space.
You don't know how I like my dicks. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't.
You do not.
You're
know.
right. I should not judge or make assumptions.
All sizes matter. Okay, like all sizes are good sizes. Okay.
If you are looking to branch out and maybe like do some side work, I have some friends that also, have busy jobs if you want to like.
Miss Robertson, I'm feeling like a little trafficked right now.
Well, I mean, if you're not interested in the position, I have a whole clipboard full of candidates that are willing to work this position. I mean,
is that a threat, Miss Robertson?
No,
is that a threat right now?
I just want to make sure that like you fit here with me, that, like, you're a good fit for me, I'm a good fit for you, we're both a good fit for my husband. I mean, if you don't mind mixing your work and your playtime, like, we could do stuff too.
Is that billed differently, or
I mean, that's usually cash, and
like at the time of?
I can pay you in cash or I can pay you in, like, Molly. Whatever is your preference.
You are mistaking me for some kind of ex-stripper drug addict, okay? Like, that is not what motivates me, okay? I want to bigger and better things, obviously.
Okay. Fine. I have a vice president of executive marketing position available, and you don't have to sleep with my husband. You just have to, like, you know, maybe do some dancing for some very nice ladies that enjoy that.
But I can sleep with your husband.
Oh, sure. I mean, if you want to do that, anytime.
It's really the mandatory part that's like, oh, it's
Okay.
another thing.
Okay,
It's another duty.
It'll be all optional. And-
I'm feeling trafficked right now. That was great. You guys both just leaned into that. And
I do not condone that. Like, if that's your thing, that's fine. But I would not do that. Just, it's improv. It's fine. I feel like, oh, this was a little real. I don't have a husband. What am I doing?
oh man, Amy, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
That was such a
Thanks for having
hilarious
me.
scene, and thanks for sharing your book.
Yes.
And thanks for being a guest. Thank you, Amy.
Absolutely.
Oh man, that was great.
Right? I have to read that now. Dang.
All right, are we ready for our next
Yes.
guest? All right, our next guest. I took so last month I couldn't be here because I was doing my storytelling class, class presentation, and I met this young lady, and she is freaking hilarious, and I'm excited to have her on the show. So please welcome Carla G. Carla I forgot her last name. How you doing, Carla?
Great, now that you've called me young lady. People usually call me ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am.
Mini stroke.
A little mini stroke when you get called ma'am?
Yeah.
When was the first time you were called ma'am? Do you remember it? Was it that traumatic?
Yeah, it still is. When I turned 30, I think. I'm 35 right now.
Wow.
It still hurts.
When I was in high school, this kid that I went to school with called my friend ma'am when she was shopping at the store he worked, and we're like, we're the same age, and we were in high school.
Do you think he forgot he went to high school with you guys?
He must have. Like, we were literally went to the same high school at that point in time, but
I thought you guys were in high school.
yeah,
still.
we were in high school, and we went to high school together, but evidently my friend looked so much older as a, like, 17-year-old that he called her ma'am and didn't even realize that we had gone to school together for many, many years.
It's very aggressive, right? Like, scary.
Carla, do you love books?
Yeah, but that book that you presented gave me PTSD. I'm still shaking. Like,
No.
I'm kidding. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot.
Carla's very funny, by the way.
The trauma made it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for inviting.
Thanks for being here. Tell us why do you love books?
I'm a huge nerd. I love to read.
Uh-huh.
Basically, my whole childhood was reading because, like, my parents really didn't leave the house much. So I would get lost in books. And,
Yes.
And yeah, I love reading. Yeah.
All right.
And I like to learn a lot. So
Do you want to know something? I'm going to share something. I know earlier we were talking about, like,
if you have to.
like the whole Mexican Puerto Rican dynamic. When I was in junior high, I was probably like 5th or 6th grade. I stole a book from the library, and it was the autobiography of Roberto Clemente.
Oh, he died.
Yeah, he died tragically. Yeah, but that was like one of my favorite books. And then, like, 4 years later, like, I still had the book, and a kid that I played Little League Baseball with, his name was Luis Quinones. I've looked for him on Facebook. He wanted to borrow my Roberto Clemente book, and I let him borrow it, and he never gave it back.
Oh.
But I couldn't be that mad because I stole it, right?
Right. Well, I was going to ask you, was that book written before or after he died? But you said it was an autobiography, so clearly before.
Oh, no, it was a biography. after. No, I think it was
Okay.
after.
No, after.
Yeah, I
He's
think it was
dead.
after he died.
He got important. He was important after his death.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you remember? Do you know how he died?
Yeah.
Do you want
Yeah.
to share? Because he died a hero.
Yeah, he was bringing supplies. I don't know if it was like a.
Nicaragua,
he was
right?
in Nicaragua bringing supplies after a disaster.
There was an earthquake or something in
And
Nicaragua.
Unfortunately, he died on the plane.
Yeah, and his airplane died.
Yeah.
And they're starting to honor him.
He was
in
a baseball player.
Yeah, he was a
Yeah.
baseball player.
Very good baseball
number
player.
21 for the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates have retired his number, so like no Pittsburgh Pirate will ever wear his
Aw.
number. And in September they do have Roberto Clemente Day in baseball, and
Aw.
I think they all wear a 21 patch. I don't think they all wear because like they do Jackie Robinson Day, where every player wears number 42, Jackie Robinson. But the last 2 years, they've also honored Roberto Clemente.
Aw.
And they do also give a Roberto Clemente Award every year to a Major League Baseball player that goes above and beyond
Yeah.
doing charitable.
Yeah.
I don't know how I went off
He was
this.
amazing.
Tell us about.
Sports talk with
I know.
Book
Sorry.
Report.
I've been wanting to talk about Roberto
He's
Clemente, I guess.
yeah. Since he met me, he's like, wait. I'm like, no.
Tell us about your book.
So I like history. So my book is called The Great Wyoming Whorehouses, a Historic Chronicle by Tom Lawrence. And that's the
Oh,
cover.
look, it's got pictures.
It's got pictures. It does. It's illustrated.
Is there more pictures inside?
Yeah.
Nice.
So
So this is what era? Wow. What era does this take place in?
So it takes place in Wyoming in the 1800s, maybe 1830s, 1840s, when the U.S. started taking over that area. The U.S. Army was protecting the Oregon Trail, and there was a big boom in oil and trading and killing of Indians. So what happened was that these ladies would follow the U.S. Army along, and the book describes kind of like the whole from start to finish, like how they started, the middle, the end, and when it all like went away in the 1960s, by the 1960s. So between 1840 and 1960.
Mm-hmm. And who's telling this account? Is it some of the ladies, or is it?
So this man, Tom Lawrence, he had heard a lot of stories about the whorehouses in Wyoming and from a lot of old white men, and he decided to put it into a book. He mentioned that there's fun facts. I don't know where to start because it's really good. So the women would follow the army, right? There were different classes of whorehouses. Some were called hog ranches. Why were they called that? Because the U.S. Army would place the base near a hog ranch where they would get pork and meat, right? And then some of the ladies there were not too cute. Like they might be missing an eye or pregnant, or they were old, and and a private back then would make $12 a month, and the ladies could make $12 an hour. Wow. And some would work from 12 p.m. till dawn, and they could service up to, on a good day, about 30 men. Better if they were military because they were clean. Mm-hmm. But if they weren't military, they would be out in the wilderness because this is the 1840s, right? So some of these men hadn't had a bath in a long time. And the book describes the process of like, you guys want to know how it worked?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So
All of us were like,
We're like,
yeah.
tell
So
me more.
the hog ranches were very straightforward. There wasn't a madam or anything, but in the classier joints that were later called hotels. By the way, the Ritz used to be a whorehouse.
what?
Yeah. So there was a madam in the high class ones, and the man would go go to the door, and the maid would open the door. And in the good establishments, there was a bar, a dancing hall, a piano, stores. This was like before malls. This was where it was at. And then people that were traveling everywhere, the men were like really into this. So they would go. So the process was, the madam would come in and say, "What do you need?" And he would say, "Well, I want this and this and this," right? And she would pick a girl. They would bring him up to her room. The maid would knock on her door. When he goes in, the maid had the sex worker, I'm going to say sex worker from now on.
Yeah, thank you.
She had to check his penis to see if there were any ticks or gonorrhea or diseases. And there would be like a little wash time, but they had to pay for it. It was like $5, right? If she helped, it was 5 more. It was hot water, it was 15.
It's probably like the best wash he got, like his probably in weeks anyway. So
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna go there and get
Because if not,
washed.
they wash it with cold water?
So, yeah, and she would notice that, for example, if they were working in the oil rig, this man, let's call him Fred, he had already been handling his business. So his penis was like
Covered in coal.
covered in coal, right? And it would be 3 to 4 minutes of cleaning, and then they would offer, do you want a preservative, right, or condom, right? Back then, men had condoms that were reusable, and they would reuse them. And the men would usually say, no, I'm going to raw dog this, right? And
Was that a term back then?
no, well,
That's where it started.
Right.
well, then she would bring him to the bed, and when it was 15 minutes, right? They would get undressed. By the 10th minute, the maid would knock on the door. 5 minutes, and by then they both had to get it going. You know, like, no, because her role was to satisfy him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get the job done, and she would. And she had to run out of bed, go to the maid, and even before this, the money had to be given before the act, right? Mm-hmm. So the maid would take the money, because then some might get aggressive, okay? So then she would like go to bed, wake up at 9:30, another guy, and then the night before she had worked a 12-hour shift with like 20 military men, you know? So it was a lot of work. Fun things not so fun, but like interesting things that I learned about the women. They're called hookers because a general in the Union, he took a wagon and put a ton of the cactus flowers and brought up, his name was John Hooker, from the Union general. He brought them down with him to the South, and then they would be called hookers girls, and now they're called hookers. And
I've always wondered.
Interesting.
yeah, back then, why this establishment was needed, they would say a horny man is a dangerous man. A harlot can civilize the wildest man, right? Even St. Augustine said they serve a necessary purpose.
Is that true?
Well, back then, the people were scared that the young boys would mature and steal their daughters, and even the moms and the dads would bring when the boys would mature, they would bring them to where the sex workers were, and they would take his virginity, and some of them would stay with that one girl until he was in his 30s, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. And well, what happened was Wyoming became the first state where women could vote and own property, because
Nice.
the sex workers were making millions of dollars.
Wow.
Okay?
Yes.
And it's pretty cool. But by the 1960s, the birth control pill was being rolled out, and to me it's ridiculous that the main reason that these places were open was because they could raw dog, right? They didn't need a condom, but at home, the ladies would have to put Vaseline up their vagina or Lysol or or have children. And then
Oh no.
and they're like, no.
Give me the Vaseline.
They're like, they rather you go and sew your wild oats or whatever. But when the pill came out 10 years later, 90% of establishments were closed.
Wow.
So there was more access, more liberation, more raw doggy. And and that's pretty much it. That's the story.
What was okay, so like in the 1840s, right? A soldier is going to one of these establishments.
Mhm.
What is he paying as far as like, is it a day's salary? Is it a month's salary? Like, how much are they spending per
Months.
shot?
It would be probably a month, more than 1 month. So if you were traveling and you stopped there, you had to be smart enough to have enough money to go back home, you know?
Wow.
And sometimes they would just spend every dollar and, you know, get stuck.
Like, I'm gonna save all my money for 6 months and then go get laid.
Or there was this sex worker, Calamity Jane was her name. And
Whoa.
she would work for a month, and that would give her enough money for like 6 months. And she would go out in the wilderness and do her own thing, and then go back.
I've heard of Calamity
Yeah, I've
Jane. I
heard of
did
Calamity
not
Jane.
hear that she was a hooker. That's
she
great.
was, and she used to be like one of the boys. So the men liked her because she would curse, she would drink, she dressed like a boy sometimes, and they loved her. So, and then her and Buffalo Bill had a thing.
Oh.
And it was interesting, like,
Buffalo Bill the cowboy, not the guy from Silence of the Lambs.
No, the cowboy. The cowboy. Yeah.
Wow.
They would steal.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like, wow, you know, and I mean, women built that economy basically with the U.S. Army, you know. So.
Of course.
So I was curious, like, why Wyoming? Is it just like conveniently located?
It was well, this was when the U.S. was like starting to the colonies become like states and stuff, and there was an Oregon Trail, and they had to. There was it was like a commerce area that the army had to protect.
They're like, stay on this side of the Sierra Nevadas, because
Yeah.
if you put us in the mountains, they might eat you, but then they might eat you.
Yeah. if the people in the east were traveling west for like gold or oil, they needed protection from the Indians, lawyers, and the Irish. So
I'm two of those things.
Poor
I'm
Irish.
offended. I'm an Irish and I'm a lawyer. I'm offended.
yeah, and others.
Any more questions, Dana?
No.
You ready?
I think I'm good.
Have you done improv before, Carla?
Nope.
I think you're gonna do great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
All right.
Hello, it is me. I am the patron saint of hookers, and I have come to you because you prayed for my help.
Yay, you're here. I cried all night.
I know, my poor sweet darling. It's gonna be okay. I, back in 200 BC, was also a hooker, and I did a bunch of old Roman men so that I could one day become a saint and protect hookers like you.
Thank you. I need a break.
Okay. Oh, I know this story too well. Let's light some candles, because that's what you have to do to say it's okay. You're gonna get down and pray, and I'm gonna take on these military guys as they come in.
How long were you in the business?
Well, it was 200 BC, so I started when I was like 12, and I died at 24, so about 12 years, or half my life.
I'm getting old. I'm 27.
I know, but that's not that old. You have at least a good 6 or 7 months left in you.
I know.
I mean, and that's just here at this fancy place. You can go down to the hog farm and keep working for another 20 years.
I don't want to.
Okay, well, then
I want to be free.
I will use my saint powers to confuse the men and make them think they have to pay you 10 times your rate. You might get a whole $20 each time, and then you can live your life out on the prairie.
Can I get more time for douching?
Yes,
We
yes.
have to do it after every man.
Okay, we will make them pay. We will also make them want to pay to douche you so that you don't even have to do it yourself.
The madam won't allow it.
Well,
It costs extra.
we'll make them pay. We'll get the rich generals down here.
Thank you. Does it hurt
Oh, well.
when you fell from heaven?
It's scene. That was beautiful. That was so great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dad brought up one more question about how old were they when they started working?
Very young, but Calamity Jane was 19. By age 30, you were
You're washed
over
up.
the hill. Over the hill.
Wow.
Yeah, and you had to do not in the hog ranches. You were just like
I love
in
how
a
you're like, but
mattress.
they'll send you the hog ranch.
Yeah, the
You're on
hog
the second
ranches.
career at the hog ranch.
Yeah, that was a mattress on the floor. Whatever, you keep going. But in the fancy houses, you had to wash yourself after every guy. Blessed.
What was your book again? Who's the author?
His name is Tom Lawrence. It's called The Great Wyoming Whorehouses, a Historic Chronicle.
Thank you so much,
You're
Carla.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
That was our show. Thank you to our guests, Amy, Carla, and our wonderful studio audience.
Thank you to anyone watching online.
Yeah, the thousands watching online.
Right.
That was the book report. Thank you. These are always so much fun.
Thank you, guys. That is it for us for the night. Come back tomorrow. Happy Time Arcade at, 6 o'clock? I don't know. I believe Jet Ski Jones might finally be making his debut. See if we can make some money. So that's it for us. We will see you back here Monday, 6 o'clock. Have a good night, everybody.